Welcome to the Simpler Business Podcast, where we talk about ways to do what you love and serve your people in a way that brings you income and freedom. I'm your host, Marissa Roberts. Join me as I chat with my favorite entrepreneurs about how they simplify their biz so that you can simplify yours. Hello. Today we are doing a solo episode. No guest today, just me having a little bit of a ramble, a little bit of a chat, nice kind of relaxed little chat with you today. And I think it's going to be fun. I really want to share with you something that I learned recently while I was on my annual trip. If you haven't heard yet, I go on a trip every year, usually around the end of the year. Typically, I go on cruises, but I think in the future I might change that up a little bit. But yeah, this year I went on a Mediterranean cruise. We started off in Spain and then we went through a couple of places in France and then we ended up in Italy, and it was 10 days on the boat. It was amazing. We had a stopover in a different area of our country pretty much every day, and I had so much fun exploring and trying the food and seeing the sights and experiencing what it was like to immerse myself in a different culture. And I also had a really good time on the ship itself. This year I went with Norwegian Cruise Lines, and they have the most beautiful boats I have ever set foot on. Really good time. It was just what I needed. I find I like to get away at least once a year completely by myself, because it gives me a really good opportunity to relax and recharge and rest, and also do something that is just for me, where every decision I make is really based on what I want to do and what I want to feel like and what makes me happy in that moment. And I really think we should all have the chance to do that on a regular basis, to just, no matter what else we've got going on in our lives and our businesses, to be able to really just take time out 100% for exactly what you want is an amazing feeling. It's like the ultimate recharge. So yeah, I had a really good time doing that. And also what I found is, and you might have heard me talk about this before, but what I found is when you give yourself a chance to relax, that's when a lot of the times you have your best creative ideas, or you pick up on things that you might not have normally noticed. I'm a big believer in taking regular breaks, taking regular downtime, having regular self-care. Self-care in particular has been something I have really increased in my life over the last 6 months, and I have seen massive impacts as a result, positive impacts as a result. So I highly recommend to increase your self-care based on my experience. We should do a whole episode on self-care for entrepreneurs in the future. So yeah, actually I'm going to make a note of that, and we'll do that in the future. But yeah, I wanted to let you know about some of the things that I learnt on the cruise, because as I was relaxing, as I was resting, as I was recharging and just enjoying my time on the cruise ship, I started to notice a few little marketing and sales lessons. These were just things that kind of popped up in front of me that I picked up on the day-to-day being on the cruise. And I thought, you know what? They were so interesting to me that I thought you might find them interesting too. So one day on the cruise, it was right after one of the shows, I had my phone on me and I had just brain dumped a whole bunch of notes about marketing and sales lessons that I was picking up from the Mediterranean cruise. And I'm going to share those with you today. I'm pretty much just going to ramble on through them and do it. It's almost like it's going to be a conversational bullet point style. But I hope you find it helpful. I hope you find it interesting. And if there is anything that resonates with you, please let me know. Come and talk to me on Instagram or leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and let me know what you found interesting. Okay, so the first point that I want to make is something that I actually do talk about on a regular basis, but this was a really good example of seeing it in multiple different areas on the cruise ship. And that point is to make an offer every day. Every day. It's the top sales lesson I can give you. If you're not making offers, people don't have the opportunity to buy from you. If you are making an offer and you're making an offer on a regular basis, you increase the opportunity that people have to make a buying decision. Now, on the cruise, where this showed up, and if you've cruised before, you'll probably think that these are quite familiar. Restaurant daily specials were a big one that I noticed. So when you're on a cruise, you get included in the cruise fare, you get meals at certain restaurants on the cruise, but then there are other restaurants on the cruise that you pay an additional fee, or you pay per head, or you pay per meal when you go to those restaurants. And what I noticed was throughout the cruise, there was always a note made or an advertisement made on the daily specials at the specialty restaurants every single day. So if the sushi restaurant was, every day they had a sushi special, and the steakhouse, every day they had a steakhouse special, and the really fancy restaurant had something. And so that would be on, say, posters, for example. It would be on the TV screens in the cabin if you looked up the cruise information. You could see it on the daily itinerary if there was something interesting going on at one of the restaurants. The offer was out there. It was always, here's what we're going to do as the special, or here's the theme at this particular restaurant today. To make a booking, here's how you do it, right? So it always had the offer and a call to action. And I found that really, really interesting, because other cruises that I've been on before have had specialty restaurants, but I had no idea what specials or theme nights or what offers they had, because that wasn't really advertised. So I really noticed that it made a big difference on this cruise. And there, as a result, you could hear people talking at lunchtime, for example, about the fact that they were going to go to the steakhouse for dinner because they were having this particular theme night. So that worked out really well. Another example of making an offer every day, the cruise ship had a jewelry boutique, and they had this thing called Charm of the Day. And on every daily newsletter, or every daily um, schedule on the app that you got for the cruise, it would talk about getting your charm of the day. And in order to get the charm of the day, you needed to show up to the jewelry boutique at a particular time of the day, and you would get a charm to add to your charm bracelet. That is such a clever way to bring people back to your shop. It's not a really big investment in terms of the company doing it, and not everybody did it. It wasn't like all 900 people or however many we had on the cruise showed up at the jewelry boutique at that time. And actually, that's a lesson in itself. You can put your offer out there and the right people will come to you. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to take it up, and it's not personal if not everybody takes up the offer. But if you didn't put the offer out there, the handful or the few hundred or the smaller amount of people who do want to take up the offer, if you don't make that offer, they don't have the opportunity to buy it. So charm of the day, I thought that was a really interesting way that they did that. Another way that I noticed the cruise was making an offer every day was they would talk about, on the cruise, they would talk about you having an opportunity to book your next cruise while you are on the current cruise. This was a real light bulb moment for me in terms of customer retention. I find it really, really interesting. It was from day one. So we got on the cruise ship, and as soon as I got on, the very first thing that I saw was a huge sign in the atrium, which is kind of like the meeting area on the cruise ship. It's basically the first area you can go in and relax once you get on board before you go looking for your room. They had a big poster with an amazing special that was available for the first 48 hours only of the cruise. And that was, if you book your next cruise within the first 48 hours of this cruise starting, you would have, I think it was triple the onboard credit, or at least double the onboard credit that you normally get on a cruise. Amazing. They had everything. They had an amazing offer. They gave it at a really good time because everybody's feeling good when they start the cruise. They weren't shy about giving the offer because, I know a lot of us would think, oh, I've just got people starting to work with me. I shouldn't really sell them on something else straight away. That's going to be too pushy. These guys weren't worried about that at all. They knew people were excited to be there. They knew that people love the idea of spending more time doing something that feels good. And they knew that having a scarcity offer available, there's a limited time to get this extra bonus, was going to be a great reason for people to go, yep, I'm going to book again. Now, also, they had information on that future cruise booking on the TVs in the cabins as well. So there was a channel for the cruise in particular that you could do on your TV, and they had what they called a future cruise presentation. So they actually did this live in the theater of the cruise a few days into the cruise, and they also recorded it and played it on TV in the room on demand. And that gave the same offer. If you book and you pay your deposit for the next cruise while you're on this cruise, then you would say get double the amount of the deposit on onboard credit for your next cruise, and you had 4 years to book your next cruise. isn't that really, really interesting? All you had to do was pay the deposit, and you had 4 years to book your date, and it was transferable. So you could give it as a gift to somebody else. But if you wanted the deal, you had to do it within the time frame they gave you. So making an offer every day doesn't have to feel spammy. You could take a look at what you have as an offer in your business and think, how can I give this out on a regular basis? What's your version of make an offer every day? Maybe if you're doing daily content, your offer could just be a little PS as a call to action at the very end of your content piece. Let's say you go live every day on social media. You can do a little call to action in every single video. Or if you do a written post, you can have a call to action as a PS at the end of that. How else could you make an offer? It doesn't have to be the same way every day. You could do it on your weekly email as one of those days. You could do a collaborative offer with somebody else. You could put it into your email automation so that your email is doing your offers for you and you don't even realize what offer is going out when, because it depends on when people enter your funnel. There's so much opportunity for you to make more offers on a regular basis. You could offer something on a thank you page after somebody signs up for your freebie straight away, give them a paid offer. That's a really good example of, yes, this person has shown that they're interested in working with me. Let's give them an opportunity to buy straight away, and maybe a really good discount and a short time frame to take that offer up. Okay, so the next point I want to talk about is how the cruise ship would give people a reason to buy now, not later. So we mentioned it a little bit with the scarcity with the future cruise. The other places that I noticed this was at the spa and on the shore excursions. So give people a reason to buy now, not later. So the spa example for this, about day 2, I think it was on the cruise, they had a little thing in the itinerary that said you could come up to the spa, to the day spa, to the beauty salon area, and they had a little free spa facial party, which was kind of like a skincare workshop. And you would go to the party, it was for free, you could sample some of the products, and they'd give you a bit of a workshop on how to take care of your skin. And then what they did was they had a little brochure that was on every seat in the house with a little special discount. They called it the after party discount, right? So we were at the spa facial party, and then the after party discount, if you booked a treatment within 24 hours. Now, you could have booked a treatment for day 9 if you wanted to, but you had to make the booking within the next 24 hours. Then you would get a big discount on the service that you booked. So it might be a massage, it might be a facial, it might be having your hair done. Just because it was a skincare workshop didn't mean you could only book skincare or facials. You could book anything from the spa. And then what they did when you're actually having your treatment or having your service done is they would upsell you for the products that they were using. So if they used an eye cream, they'd say, this is the eye cream we're using. It's beautiful. It's this brand. It helps in this way. If you like, we have them available here so that you can continue to use this in your cabin for the rest of the cruise and take it home with you, right? So really, really good reason to buy now and not later. You had to book that treatment in within 24 hours of the workshop. Now on score now on shore excursions, what they would do for those is say there are limited spots. If you want a particular excursion, you need to book early so that you don't miss out. And then for some excursions, they actually have a discount available as well. So I thought that was very, very clever. The limited spots was the big one for me there. And they also gave a guaranteed refund in case the excursion happened to be cancelled and then the customer couldn't actually go on it. Sometimes due to the weather, they had to cancel shore excursions, or there was one particular stop that we couldn't make when we were going to Valencia where we couldn't actually get the ship in to dock safely. So all of the excursions that day were cancelled. And I think that's actually a good lesson in itself too, having that security, that guarantee available so that when people do part with money to do something that's new to them, they don't feel nervous about it, because if it doesn't work out, they know they're not going to lose their money. That's a good lesson in itself as well. So what kind of guarantee can you offer to your people? What kind of guarantee, or what's the other word I'm looking for? Assurance. What kind of assurance can you give your customers when they're parting with their hard-earned cash in order to buy one of your programs or your products or your services? Okay, the next point I want to talk about is upsells. So this is really, really interesting. So the cruise is all paid for and you get plenty of complimentary food and drink. You get free entertainment, but there are also things that you need to pay to do on board. So you pay if you want to play bingo, for example. You pay if you want to shop in the boutiques, obviously, because you're going to buy things from them. You buy from the art exhibitions. You go to the specialty restaurants that we mentioned before. If you're going to the bar, there are some fancier drinks that aren't included in your package that you can opt to buy separately. Even in the cabins, and this I had never seen before on a cruise, they had a whole movie selection. There was about 30 movies that you could choose from to watch for free. And then they had another 12 movies that you would pay $10 to rent and watch. And they were the more new release movies. So in your stateroom, in your cabin, they had an upsell offer there too. Very, very clever. So have a little think. What sort of upsells can you offer to your customers that's going to give them even more of a great experience and also give you a little cash flow boost as well? The next point is packages. I think if anyone's ever gone on a cruise, you understand packages already because the drinks package is the big one. So, what they did on this cruise, for example, was they said you could get a drinks package that equaled, it was about $300 for the drink package. It was a 10-day cruise. And so then you'd say to yourself, all right, if I'm going to drink $30 worth of drinks in a day anyway, then the package is worth it because it's unlimited drinks. So I can splurge for a few nights if I want to. Now, personally, I'm not much of a drinker. I'm pretty much tea, coffee, water, and then a glass of wine at dinner. So for me, a glass of wine is only like $10, $15. I wasn't going to hit that $30 mark. So I didn't get the drinks package. So it wasn't for everyone, but there were so many people in the boat that loved the unlimited drinks package because it meant that they could have the fancier coffees in the morning, or they could have fancier drinks or cocktails or the higher priced wines. It was just, having that unlimited drinks package was really appealing to actually, I would say, most of the clients on the cruise. But the drinks package wasn't the only one. They also had internet packages, and this was a gold idea for me because, as you know, last year when I went on my cruise, or you'll know if you've listened to the past episodes from this time last year, but last year when I went on my yearly cruise, I had no internet access at all. I deliberately didn't get it because I wanted to really take a break and not have any work or any contact. I really wanted that time to be just for me, and I loved it. But then when I came back to work after the holiday, then there was a lot of overwhelm. I had a lot of catching up to do. And I also had a lot of stuff that I had to wrap up before my holiday in order to be able to relax on the holiday. This year, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to embrace more of a travel lifestyle, but a little bit of work at the same time, because in the long run, I want to do more travel. I want to go more places, and I don't want to have to um, stop what I'm doing on a regular basis. I want to be able to work and travel at the same time and not have the upheaval of stopping and starting. And I only work a couple of hours a day anyway, so it's not a huge deal. But on the cruise, it meant that I needed to have, um, what's the word? I needed to have reliable internet. And that was very, very expensive when you think about it. The internet package was $600 for the cruise. But for me, it was a no-brainer. It was absolutely worth it because it meant that I could pick and choose that couple of hours a day and just work whenever I wanted. As long as I was on the cruise, I knew it would actually work. So I kind of fell into a pattern where every day I would get up and have breakfast, and then I would go and spend a few hours exploring the city that we were in. And then I would go back and have lunch. If I hadn't have had lunch while I was out, I'd have lunch on the boat. And then in the afternoon, I would spend a couple of hours in my stateroom, get a little bit of work done with the internet connection, and then I would go back up and have dinner and go to the show. It just turned into a really, really simple routine. So having that reliable internet there really made it smooth and easy. And for me, it was worth every penny. So yeah, packages. How can you do packages in your business? Can you package up some of your online programs, the ones that kind of complement each other? Can you package them up so that people buy three instead of one at a time? That would be a great example of a package that you could do. Could you package your services so that, for example, you were doing some services together on a monthly retainer instead of per hour or per job? How can you add packages to your business? All right, let's talk about the next point, which is VIP treatment. Now, this was a really, really fun one because who doesn't love feeling special? Who doesn't love that little bit of extra luxury? So, there was always the opportunity from when I booked this cruise until we actually, my travel date started in between, even though I had already made my booking and paid for my cruise. I was receiving regular emails inviting me to upgrade to a better stateroom, to access exclusive areas of the ship. So on the ship I was on, they actually had an area called the Haven. So you needed to upgrade to a suite in order to access that area, and that had a specialty restaurant, a lovely relaxation area that was a lot more private. It wasn't as crowded. That was the VIP version that they had on the cruise. You could upgrade for a better stateroom or a suite, and then you could access exclusive areas of the ship. And for me, this really resonated because VIP options in your business are really, really, really easy to add in. They don't actually require a ton of effort on your part in order to give that little bit of an extra luxurious VIP offer to your customers. So think about the next launch you're doing. Let's say you have an online program that you're selling, a VIP offer. You could you could add it in like this. One tier, the regular tier could be somebody would buy the program and it's self-paced and they can work through it however they want to. Then you could have a second tier where someone can buy the program but also have 4 group calls with you during a certain amount of time. Say over a month, you might do 4 weekly calls to help them with their learning and to help them take action and have accountability with actually doing something with the things that they're learning. And then your VIP level could be a really limited amount of one on one work with you to complement the program. So somebody might buy the program, and instead of the group calls, they would have a one on one call with you each week. And because that's you putting in your one on one time, you would limit that and really increase the price. So you might do your program for $300. You might do the group version with the accountability and the group calls for $600, and your VIP might be 1,000, for example. So yeah, have a think about how can you add a VIP offer to your services, for example, or your products, for example. What can you do to make something that a little bit more special, a little bit more luxurious that people are willing to part with money for? I know at events you could have a VIP section right at the front near the stage. It could have goodie bags on the seats. You could have merchandise for your event that people get if they're VIPs. They could get early access to the room. They could have nicer, maybe a lunch with you as well on one of the days. There are lots of great ways that you can make people feel like a VIP. All right, the next point is how regular and the tone of the offers when they were made. I found on the cruise, every time somebody made an offer, it was the way they delivered it that was really, really impressive. The offers were always warm, friendly, and repeated regularly, both in person and in the daily newsletter. And there was no hard sell. And it wasn't negative if the person didn't take up the offer. Nobody got put off or offended if someone said no, right? So if the offer isn't taken up, it was just given on a regular basis, again and again and again, in a light, breezy, warm, and friendly way. And what I actually noticed when I was hearing people talk about it on the ship was that there were a lot of things that people bought later on in the cruise that they did not think they were going to buy at the start of the cruise. But because they had heard the offer 6 or 7 times, that sixth or seventh time was the moment they went, actually, you know what? It does sound good. I'm going to do it. And in particular, this was things like at the spa. You don't get on the cruise on day one and go, I really need a blowout for my hair. I really want my hair done, because you already look nice. But when you get 7 or 8 days into a cruise, you might be tired of doing everything yourself and you want a bit of pampering. So a blowout, a hairstyle is much more appealing at that point. But if you're not offered it on a regular basis, you don't think of it yourself. So actually putting it out there, not being put off or offended if somebody said no, but still making an offer on a regular basis is a great idea. Now, for you, that might translate into offers that you put on social media, offers that you do through your email, whether it be your newsletter or your funnel. There are ways that you can make your offers repeatedly and not in a hard sell or a pushy way, and make it so that you're not offended if somebody says no. You've got nothing to lose by making an offer, but you also have nothing to lose by making it again and again and again. The last point that I want to make that I learned on this cruise is that they were really aiming, obviously, for good quality in terms of service and entertainment, but there was no pressure for absolute perfection. It was just a feel good factor that they were aiming for. The entertainment was a big one here for me. I really liked the way that if you've been on a cruise, you'll know that there are shows and then there are little games nights and trivia and quiz nights and challenge nights and things like that. So you can actually get together in some of the smaller rooms and do like a, like a uh, men versus women sort of challenge, or a country versus country sort of challenge, or physical challenges, or guess the song, or charades, or, the games. And what I noticed was some of the hosts with some of the games and some of the guests, guests can be a little unpredictable. They can be a bit rowdy. It kind of puts the hosts of those challenges in quite a difficult situation. And what I noticed was everybody who was hosting a game or hosting a little show was very relaxed and friendly and just kind of rolled with it if things weren't perfect. And I think that's what made everything so fun, is no one felt bad if things weren't exactly right. Everybody was just, we're here to have fun. Everything's great. We keep going. We move through it. It was just a really good lesson in what you can do with your business as well. I think so many of us are scared to launch a new product or service because we think that it needs to be perfect before we release it out into the world. And let's face it, that's pretty much impossible, because your idea of perfection is going to be different to somebody else's idea of perfection. And you can't make something better without putting it out there and giving it a go and seeing what it's like in its present form, because when you do that, that's when you kind of realize what it's missing and what you need to add. So if you're aiming for perfection before you give something a go, you're just not going to be giving it a go, which means everybody else is going to start becoming leaps and bounds ahead of you while you sit there too scared to give something a go. So I think the lesson there was embrace not being perfect, embrace learning as you go. Embrace having a couple of hiccups or hurdles and learning how to handle them. Be open when things aren't absolutely perfect. If you make a mistake, it's totally fine. Everybody does. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to be perfect. Everything is a learning experience for everyone. And I make mistakes all the time. There was a podcast episode, I think maybe a week or two ago, where I accidentally uploaded the unedited version of the podcast. So you can actually hear me. I think about 15 people heard it before I actually pulled it back down. And you could hear me go 3, 2, 1 at the start during the count in. You can even hear me ask my guest if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And it was just, I remember when I heard that myself, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so unprofessional. I panicked a little bit. And then I thought, you know what? No, all I have to do is replace the episode with the edited version and move on with my business and my life. There's nothing wrong with people hearing those behind the scenes things. It actually makes for a good story now. Nobody minds. In fact, it's quite fun and interesting for the people who did hear it. They're kind of like in an insider club now, because they're the ones that noticed it. So, yeah, things don't have to be perfect. Aim for feel good rather than perfection. Learn as you go, enjoy the process, be open about it. And I think that's also a really nice way to role model to the people that you're working with as well. Okay, so I have rambled on for almost half an hour about marketing and sales lessons I've learned from my Mediterranean cruise. And I hope that you found some of it interesting and helpful. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the points that I made today. So come on over to Instagram if you want to. You'll find me at Marissa Roberts Official. Send me a DM or comment on one of the posts. Whatever you want to do, get in touch. Let me know, what are you thinking? Was anything in particular helpful about this episode? Did you relate to any of it? Did any of the lessons sound familiar to you? How are you going to apply them in your business? And are you interested in going on cruises yourself? I will leave it there for now. We're going to have another solo episode coming up next week. And yeah, and then we're coming into the Christmas season. It's all kind of starting and building up now. As I'm doing this recording, we're right at the end of November. And so I'm starting to think about what are we going to do in the lead up to Christmas time in terms of business stuff, but also life stuff as well. So I'm thinking we might do the next solo episode on a little bit to do with end of year business stuff, Christmas marketing. If you haven't got it all planned out yet, you don't need it. You don't need an absolutely perfect plan months and months ahead of Christmas. You can actually go in and kind of wing it a little bit if you want to. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. There's plenty that you can do in December, but also have a think about how you're going to wrap up your business. Are you taking a break over the holiday season and the new year? So we might have a little chat along those lines in our next episode. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I have enjoyed making it, and I will see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Simpler Business Podcast. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to make it nice and easy for you, just the way we like it. If you're ready to simplify and scale your business, you can get started with my free audio class at marissaroberts.com. See you next time.